All right, everyone, you may be seated. Does the state waive the call, jury? Defense waive the call? Welcome back, folks. I hope you had a good lunch. We're ready to continue with the state's proof. General, if you please call your next witness.
Angela Crane.
Ms. Crane, if you please come forward, take the witness stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, please have a seat. Once you're seated, you may remove your mask, and I'd ask that you get the microphone up fairly close to your mouth so we can hear you. General, whenever you're ready.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Angela Crane.
I'm going to ask you to speak up a little bit. You're very soft-spoken.
I'm sorry. Angela Crane.
Ms. Crane, can you introduce yourself to the jury, tell them where you live, what you do, and how you're related to Joel Guy Sr.?
Joel Guy Sr. is my father. I'm from Kingsport, Tennessee. Born and raised. In April of 2016, I went to upstate New York with my job for an emergency project, and I've been up there since.
What do you do?
I do civil design.
Okay, what does that entail?
It's civil engineering design. It's right now I'm working on currently 11 sanitary sewer projects.
Okay. What does your father do for a living?
He's a piping designer, and he's actually the reason why I do what I do. Growing up, we used to, whenever he and Lisa and Joel Michael would come up and visit, he would always bring blueprints of the projects he was working on, and I was just fascinated. Mm-hmm. It was drawing and math, which is both things that I love, and he encouraged that. So.
Okay. Now, Lisa was not your mother, is that correct?
Correct.
Can you tell the jury when you met Lisa and how that came about?
Lisa, when Michelle and I were 3, they met, and she's been like a second mother to us since before I can remember.
Okay. So your mother and your sister's mother and your father divorced, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
When we were 1, I believe, was when they divorced.
Okay. And can you tell the jury how long Joel and Lisa were married?
31 years, I believe.
Mm-hmm. So when did you first learn that he was going to be retiring?
They had been talking about it for a while, but he had sent a group message we have a family group message, and so that was on November 17th that he finally got word that his house had sold, and they had signed the documents, and that they needed to be out of the home by December 13th. So, but they have had the house up for sale for quite some time.
Okay. And were you aware of Lisa's plans to retire?
Yes. She was excited about retiring and just spending her time. They were madly in love, so just spending time with each other.
Okay. Did she make any statements to you about her intentions with respect to the support of her son, the defendant?
She did. On one of my trips back home in October, Dad and I were talking out in the garage, and she had stated that they were going to retire, and it was time for Joel Michael to stand on his own 2 feet. He was an adult.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you say you were out in the garage. Can you explain how your family used the garage?
It was our social gather. Like every time we visited Dad and Lisa, I believe we stood up the whole entire time. We just congregated and hung out, and we would go out in the garage, and that's where we smoked cigarettes and just even played cornhole in the garage.
Did they put their cars in the garage? Typically?
They kept the boat in the garage.
Okay. All right. Can you tell the jury how often you communicated with your dad?
Oh, if not every day. And on Sundays we would call and talk, but via text message Dad, Michelle, Lisa, and I had this text thread where we would just text each other. I mean, we just really would banter. Dad was so funny.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about the decision to move to Sirgoinsville? What made that a special place for your father?
That was his old stomping grounds. That's where he grew up. That was his family home, and he was excited to go back home.
Okay. Now, again, what was your understanding of when the move would take place?
Well, they had to be out by December 13th, so they were packing and getting everything ready for the new homeowners to move in on December 13th. So it was...
And were you aware of when Lisa's last day at work would be?
It was the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Okay. Did you attend the Thanksgiving holiday?
I was going to, but at last minute I decided I was going to spend the whole week with them for Christmas. So I did not.
What were the family plans for Christmas?
To have the whole entire family in Sirgoinsville, have a Christmas Eve dinner, and just be reunited and enjoy each other.
Okay. And you mentioned that your parents that Lisa and Joel had a very warm relationship. Did you communicate often with your brother?
No.
And can you describe your relationship with Lisa?
With Lisa, she was one of my best friends, and so was Dad.
I'm going to pass the witness. Thank you.
No questions, John.
Thank you, ma'am. You may sit down. You may remain in the audience.
Shandis Fink. Yes, it is.
Solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. All right, please have a seat, ma'am. Once you're seated, you may remove your mask and please speak clearly into the microphone.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Chandis Fink.
And I'm going to have to ask you to speak up just a bit.
Chandis Fink,
Ms. Fink, where do you live?
Kingsport, Tennessee.
How are you related to Joel Guy Sr.?
He's my dad.
Right. And I would like for you to tell the jury what your understanding was about Joel and Lisa's plans for their move to Sirgoinsville.
They plan to retire.
And did you talk to your father often?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury how often you spoke to him or texted?
Almost every weekend, unless one of the two of us was going to be out of town or something.
Did you hear from your father or communicate with him at all on Saturday, November the 26th, or Sunday, November the 27th?
No.
And did that surprise you?
It did,
And why did it surprise you?
because Sunday was my birthday.
Did you expect a call from your father on that day?
Yes.
Did you find it unusual that he did not call?
It was the first birthday I ever missed.
I'm going to pass the witness.
Thank you, ma'am. You may sit and you may remain in the audience.
Renee Charles.
Since you and Ms. Fink are family members, we're not going to disinfect. You're not distance. If you please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Please have a seat, ma'am, and you may remove your mask. Please speak loudly into the microphone.
State your name for the record, please.
Renee Charles.
Ms. Charles, how are you related to Joel Guy Sr.?
I'm his sister,
And how did you refer to him?
as Mike.
So he was known as Mike growing up? Okay. How often did you talk to your brother?
3 or 4 times a week.
Right. Did you communicate by telephone or by text?
Text, mostly.
Okay. And did you communicate with him around the Thanksgiving holiday
Yes.
in 2016?
Yes.
And did you discuss with him his plans for the future?
Yes.
And what did you know his plans to be?
Well, the week before, they were at the house, and we were talking about what they were going to do, and they said that they were going to wait till Christmas to talk to Joel Michael, that they were going to have him to start paying his bills and stuff.
Okay.
And
Did
they
you
were-
all have plans for Christmas?
Yes.
What were the plans?
Everybody was going to meet at the house, and Joel Michael would be in for Christmas. They said he wasn't coming in for Thanksgiving.
Okay. And was that going to be in Surgoinsville then, the
Mhm.
new house?
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe this house for the jury? Was this your family home?
Yes.
All right. And had your brother Joel Sr. or Mike, had he already made arrangements to buy the house?
Yes. They was done moving stuff in.
And when was the last time that you saw him?
The week before.
Okay. Do you know whether or not he had plans to travel to Surgoinsville on November the 25th?
Yeah.
That would have
Yeah.
been a Friday, the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I called him that day.
Okay. And what were his plans?
They were going to leave and go back about 3:30.
So they were planning to come up to
Friday.
Surgoinsville from
Yeah.
Knoxville? Okay. And
Yeah.
why were they coming up for the day?
to bring the boat and clean and do things around the house.
And I believe you just said that they intended to go back home to Knoxville about 3?
About 3:30, so they could eat supper.
Okay. Now, did you try to communicate with him at all on the following days, Saturday or Sunday, the 26th or 27th?
I called him Thanksgiving Day, and I called him Saturday and Sunday.
Did you speak to him or hear from him on Saturday and Sunday?
No.
How many times would you say that you tried to talk to him?
I called 2 or 3 times and texted.
And you got no response?
No.
All right. Now, did you have a relationship with Lisa?
Yes.
And what was the nature of that relationship?
She's just a good friend, you know, a sister-in-law, you know.
Did you have an opportunity to observe her relationship with your brother?
Yes.
And what was their relationship like?
It was great. I mean, they just fit, you know. They were meant to be together.
Now, did you have a relationship with your nephew, the defendant?
No, just when he come in for holidays.
Okay. So the last time you communicated with your brother was on Friday, November the 25th. Is
Yes.
that right? And you did not receive a response from him on the 26th and 27th.
No.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Just briefly. Renee, Joel lived in Louisiana, is that correct?
Yes.
And at some point, Mike and Lisa moved from Louisiana up to Knoxville.
Yes.
Joel did not move with them.
No.
So Joel's entire life, he'd lived in Louisiana. You, for your entire life, had lived in Upper East Tennessee, is that
Right.
correct?
Right.
That's all I have.
Anything else, Joe?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. You may sit down.
Robin White.
You solemnly swear or affirm that testimony about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, something God. Please have a seat. You may remove your mask. Please go.
State your name for the record, please.
Robin White.
Or how are you related to Joel Guy Sr.?
He's my brother.
And what did you call him?
Mike.
Ms. White, do you live in Surgoinsville?
I do.
Okay. Did you know whether or not your brother had plans to move to Surgoinsville?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury what those plans were when he planned to do it?
He planned to retire, and he bought the home from me When my dad died, I was the trustee, and he bought the house from me. And I helped him clean and do things around the house. I got to spend all day Wednesday before he died with him. And
That would have been the 23rd of November?
yeah.
May I approach?
You may.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as Exhibit 5 and ask you if you recognize this.
I do. That's our home.
Okay, and is that the house that he was going to buy from you?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, if we could publish this photograph to the view.
Any objection?
No, no.
Exhibit 5, you may publish. Just a second.
Now, when did they plan to go up there to live? When did you think that?
Well, they was moving in some, things and stuff, and doing things to the yard, getting ready to move the dog, putting fences up and stuff for the dog. And we helped them with all that.
Okay. Did you discuss plans with your brother for the holidays that were coming up?
No, I didn't discuss no plans for the holidays. I'm not one to plan that far ahead.
Well, so
I was just busy helping him with the house and stuff.
What about the Christmas holiday?
Yeah, we usually see each other. We always have. We've always, the family always gets together and has a big meal and enjoys each other.
Okay. Now, you said that on Wednesday the 23rd he was going to be bringing, did you say he was bringing the boat up to the house? Or?
Yeah, we got done working in the basement that day and everything, and he said he'd be back up Friday. He was going to bring the boat and stuff. And I called him Friday, and it was probably about 1 o'clock. He said he wasn't going to be there much longer, that him and Joel Michael was there, and they had brought the boat and stuff up. He wasn't going to be there much longer, that I could just holler at him our Monday when he come back up.
Okay. And did he indeed bring the boat up on Friday?
He did.
And do you know who was with him when he brought the boat up?
All I know is Joel Michael was with him, because he was showing him the house and everything.
Now, at some point before Thanksgiving, did you have a conversation with Lisa Guy about her future intentions, what she was going to do after she quit work?
Yeah, Lisa said that she was going to retire too and maybe try to find some work. I'm not really sure if she was really going to find a job or not, but, she said, she was excited about everything.
And did she discuss her future plans on whether or not she could help support her son?
She said that she couldn't do that no more,
Okay.
that he needed to be on his own.
And did you have an opportunity to observe the relationship between your brother and Lisa?
Oh, yeah. I was with them a lot. We went a lot of places together, parks and stuff, Yeah, they was very much in love, and you could tell it when you was around them.
And what was your relationship like with Lisa?
Lisa was like my sister.
Okay. And do you know your nephew very well?
No.
And,
No, I really don't.
And that's he
never was around.
He lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr.
You're
White.
welcome.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Just to clarify one point, when the boat was brought up, did you see Mike and Joel Michael that day?
No, I talked to my brother on the phone while he was there,
Okay.
because I was
Thank you.
going to come down.
Okay, thank you.
Very briefly, did you talk to him again afterwards on the 26th or the 27th, that Saturday or Sunday?
No, my sister called me and told me she couldn't get in touch with neither one of them. She was worried.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Michelle Dennison, her last name is apparently is Tyler now. I'm sorry for using the wrong last name.
Tyler, if you could come forward. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please have a seat, ma'am. You may
state your name for the record, please?
Michelle Tyler.
And how are you related to the parties in this case?
I am Joel Guy's daughter and Lisa's stepdaughter.
And how are you? Are you and Angela Crane twins?
Yes,
Twin
ma'am.
Sisters. Okay. Can you describe for the jury a little bit your relationship with Lisa and your dad?
We were very close, like friends, like best friends. They were my best friends.
Did you communicate with them regularly?
Yes, ma'am. And we had a group text. It was the text was banter, just funny. Even through email, Dad would send banter of funniness.
Okay. And how often would you all communicate together?
Weekly, if not daily, but weekly.
Okay. And I take it from what you're saying that you've had a good relationship with them?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell us a little bit about how long you had been with Lisa and what your connection to her was?
Lisa's been in my life my entire life, and it said it 3, but she's been my entire memory. And so we would go in the summers. Dad would have us for a month in the summer because they always lived so far away, and Angela and I would go visit for the entire month. But the dynamics of that was my mom was a single mom, so there's struggles with single moms. But when we went to Lisa's house, her cabinets were stocked with food, and she greeted Dad like the perfect Walton family. When they would come home, dinner would be cooked with meat and side dishes, and there would be candy in the shelves. And I just would watch her, and I watched her growing up like she was the mom, or that dream that you have to have a double parent home, to where she loved, like, I so wanted to be this woman that my first engagement ring was her exact engagement ring, and I wanted to be the mom she was. She would sit in her little brown Sperry brown shirt. She had a really high arch in her foot, and just with her cup, I wanted to even, at certain points in my life, I walked around with a cup that had like the little square placement under it, because I wanted to be her. I wanted to be the mom that she was.
So it's fair to say you all maintained this relationship well into your adulthood, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And because of your close relationship with them, did they tell you about their plans?
Yes, ma'am.
In October and November of 2016, what were you aware about their future plans?
We celebrated my youngest son's birthday in October. It's October 28th, that weekend. They had said that they were retiring and that they were moving to Sikoransville, and that Joel Michael was going to find a job or need to find a job because they were no longer, their money when they sat down and determined, even down to the amount of beer that they drink a week and the amount of cigarettes that they have a week, what amount of money they would need, and that amount of money was what they had to retire.
Okay. Now, on Thanksgiving, November the 24th of that year, did you plan to be with them?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell the jury what time you went over and who you were with?
We had, I'm not sure what time I arrived. It was early. We always spent all day together. My 3 sons were with me. They were significantly younger, so they weren't as big in the pictures. See, grown 7 feet. My oldest is here today. So my sons were with me, sorry.
And anybody else?
So my sons came with me, and then my boyfriend was coming that evening. He was having Thanksgiving dinner at his granny's house, and then he was coming to my house, but my parents did not know at that point that he was coming.
Okay, but it's fair to say you were with your parents before he came.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And who else was staying in the house?
It was Joel Michael Jr.
Okay. And can you tell the jury how long you were there?
I would say I was there from 10:30 or 11 until 8 o'clock that night.
Okay.
Maybe 8:30.
Can you describe what you all did throughout the day?
It's no, I don't know if it's usual for everyone else, but ours is you hang out in the garage and you laugh and you talk and you tell the same stories, and then you move to different spots. So we moved at one point to the back porch. This day was a little different. It was always more, the typical time with Dad and Lisa was more laughing and banter, but if Joel Michael Jr. was there, he wasn't ever hanging with us doing that banter. He would be in his room.
Okay.
Except for on Thanksgiving.
And at some point, did he interact, though, with your children?
The Thanksgiving was different. The Thanksgiving was completely different. The moment that I arrived, Joel Michael Jr. was talking to us, and he had never. I'm not sure Joel Michael Jr. knew my kids' names, and so for him to talk to them was odd. And so he was talking to my kids, and he was bringing them upstairs. Lisa had kept every single thing that this kid had. He wasn't a kid at that point, but his entire everything, Beanie Babies that he had collected, things that he had put on the shelf like eggs, science stuff, and she memorialized. It's not a word. Memorialized. I'm not going to know the word right now. Memorialized. No.
Memorialized.
Yes, that word. His entire life in boxes upstairs, and so they were bringing those boxes down, but it wasn't Lisa giving that away. Lisa didn't want to give it away. It was Joel Michael Jr. giving it to my boys, which was still odd.
So he gave them some toys.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have occasion to make any observations about your brother's car on that day?
I had, that day I had sent Dad a text. My dryer had broke. And I had sent Dad a text with a picture of all of my clothes in the back. And it was a full trunk full of clothes. And so when I had pulled in for my car to be right there so I could carry all of these clothes upstairs to his washer and dryer. But in walking past Joel Michael's car, there was this big totes in the back, and the lids were on them, and one was inside the other. But I thought he had carried his luggage in my brain, what my brain thought. Or my first reaction was that his luggage was in that car. Why he had carried, that's the reason I remembered it. Why did he put his luggage? Why does he not have luggage?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And did you have an opportunity to go upstairs?
It was so odd that my boys were upstairs, like interacting with Joel Michael, that I was going upstairs for two reasons. I was going upstairs for laundry, and then I was going upstairs to check on the boys.
Okay. And did you have an opportunity to go into your parents' bedroom?
I did.
And did anything seem to be out of the ordinary there?
No, my dad, I never make the bed up, ever. My bed's still not made up right now. My dad makes the bed up every day. Lisa, that's one thing they always did, even growing up. Like, I wanted to be that housewife that made the bed like Lisa did. And so the bed was always made up. The bathroom stuff was always clean. Like, it was always, they had separate bathrooms. But
do you know which room your brother was using that weekend?
he was, if you come to the top of the stairs, the room that he was using that weekend was right at the top of the stairs. Their room was to the right, and his was right there.
Okay. And was there a bathroom up there for him to use? Were you aware of which bathroom he used?
I am not, no, ma'am.
Okay. How many bathrooms were upstairs in the house?
2.
Okay. And was there a bathroom connected to the master bedroom?
Yes, ma'am.
So the other bathroom was where?
The other bathroom was Joel Michael Jr.'s room, and if you go down the hallway, it was down the hallway on the right.
And where was the laundry room?
The laundry room was right across from that bathroom.
Upstairs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I guess you were aware that your parents had a dog?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you do laundry while you were there?
Yes, a lot.
And did you observe anything unusual about the laundry room?
No, there was nothing unusual about the laundry room. I was, every time I would go upstairs, it's like he would be right behind me, which is also.
When you say he, who do you mean?
I'm so sorry. Joel Michael Jr. would be right behind me, like in my, like right behind me, because I remember doing this. Like, why is he right behind me?
Okay. And did you find that odd at the time?
I did, because for 27 years or however old he was, he stayed in his bedroom. He was never smiling, saying, "Let me give you something," or right behind me ever.
Okay. So I want to ask you a little bit more about the house. What do you know about your father's guns?
He has a lot of them.
Okay. And why did he have a lot of guns?
He was a conspiracy theorist. I don't know. He loved shooting. I'm joking about the conspiracy theorists. We were, and maybe it's in my head, but we're all, myself, I can shoot the bullseye with a gun. My oldest son can shoot the bullseye. We all are very good shots. And it's just, I guess we said it was the Joel guy. Like, we had Joel guy in us. Even my oldest can shoot, and he's.
Did they like to target practice? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Even bow and arrow, we could shoot the bullseye.
Okay. And did Lisa participate in the target shooting too?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So your father, was he moving these guns from one house to another, or were they visible when you were at the house on Thanksgiving? Did you see them?
Guns were always a part of growing up. Like, you knew they were loaded, and you knew not to touch them. And it's the same in my house. So if there were guns present, they weren't laid out. They would have been in the regular spots that they were in, and it would have been, even my kids know there's guns in my house, or our house, and there's guns in Papa's house and in Mama's house, and every single gun is loaded. You do not touch. And so we would.
Did you see any long guns on the dining room table during Thanksgiving?
No, ma'am. No.
Okay. All right. Now, do you know whether or not your father had any kind of cameras, security cameras in the house?
He always had cameras. Even when he lived in Louisiana, he had cameras in different parts of the house. And
after his death, did you have an opportunity to notice whether or not those cameras were still in the house?
On Thanksgiving, the cameras were in the house because he had a button that you could turn it on into the TV, into the living room, and see the cameras. But after Thanksgiving, the next time I was in there, and with cops asking me, I said there are cameras in the house, but there were no cameras in the house.
Okay. Now, did you know what your parents were going to do on the day after Thanksgiving? Did they discuss their future plans with you?
I knew they were going to take the boat. I knew they were taking items they had packed. They were starting the packing process, so they had already moved a bed. The reason the one room to the left didn't have a bed is because they had already set up, to my understanding, a bed at the new house. And they, to my understanding, had already brought boxes, or were taking were taking boxes up there. And so that's why there was boxes in that upstairs room.
Okay. So, when was the last time you spoke to your father?
It would have been Thanksgiving night.
Did you hear from him by text or telephone after Thanksgiving?
The picture I had texted because I wanted to post that picture of the boys and Dad and Lisa. So I had texted them for that picture, but nobody responded. And then I texted another text, and I'm not sure what the other text said, but no one was, and it was in the group text with my sister, and no one responded.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes. I thought you were asking me. I was like, yeah, sure.
Let me show you. I think there's an objection, Judge, to these being introduced as exhibits. Exhibit number 6, and ask you if you can identify this.
Yes, ma'am. That was the picture we took on Thanksgiving.
And that's the picture that we had published during the opening statement. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Your entire family. And if you could just identify the people in the photograph, if you could publish. It's in
Any objection?
It is Dad and Lisa's in the photo, and then my youngest son, Ben, is in the photo, and my middle son.
Hold on a second. We're going to get it up on the screen so the jurors can see what you're talking about. Just let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
That is
I
Dad.
can see it right here.
Okay. That is Dad and Lisa. Dad is on the right, and then Lisa's on the left, and then Joel Michael Jr. is next to him, and then Preston, my oldest son, is at the very top. And we color coded for holidays.
At that time, kind of lost that a little bit. But you see that Ben and Baylor in the same outfit. Ben being taller, but he stayed small for so long. Like he stayed in 8-year-old clothes. And so he looks tiny there. He's way bigger now. And then Ben is the littlest one.
Okay. And I want to show you exhibit number 7, 8, and 9. And ask you if you recognize these photographs.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, I recognize what's in the picture. I've not. These are the first time I think I've seen these.
What's in the pictures?
These are the stuff that this is the stuff. This is the stuff that Joel Michael gave the boys.
Okay. Can you look at all of those photographs just to make sure?
Yes.
Did a forensic technician come out to your house at some point and take photographs of all of you?
They came out and took photographs and swabbed all of us, and then that's when they were asking about this stuff, and then I said they have the tubs of this. The boys hadn't. I'm not sure what date it was on, but the boys had just basically brought it in the house, so we threw it.
Exhibits. So that's how they were brought into the house.
Yes, ma'am.
That would be exhibit number 9, and then the next one. No.
Ready.
Okay. So does this photograph depict some of the games and toys that were given? Ms. Tyler?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
And exhibit 8, does this depict the Beanie Babies that the defendant gave your sons?
Yes, ma'am.
And then exhibit 9, also just other toys that he was given.
Yes,
that were
ma'am.
given to him. Okay. Can you tell the jury a little bit about how you found out about your parents' deaths?
Say it again. Found out.
About your parents' deaths?
So Monday morning came, and in our family we have this thing to where we always answer text. You don't not, it's double negative, but you always answer a text. And no one had answered my text, so I had texted them, but then I came down with the stomach virus on Sunday, and so that it took me a minute to get over that, but I had to go to work on Monday. So when I got up for work on Monday, I was driving in, and I don't know when I called my sister, but I know I was on the phone with my sister that morning, and I said, are you all mad at me? Is somebody mad at me? It's not like my family, especially my dad and Lisa, they didn't have problems with, like they just made the intent to not have problems with people. They would never voice their problem with somebody, and so for them to not answer my text was really weird. And so I said, well, I told Angela I'm going to text them or wait on their response, and I'm not sure. I'm sure I texted them again or tried to call them. I believe by this point their phones were going to voicemail. And I said, I'm going to go after work and check on them if they've not responded. And she said, okay, just let me know. And usually if we panicked like that, it always was, at point, okay. And so I don't know the exact time, but about 2, Jennifer had got in touch with me through Facebook.
Jennifer Whited?
Yes, ma'am. And she had said, there's something wrong, you need to call me, and I'm not sure her exact message. And so I called her, and she said, you need to get a hold of the detectives. And so I called Detective McCord, and he said, you need to come meet me. And I was working, I can't remember, I don't think the school day was over because I said people had to get my class. I'm a teacher. And then I had to walk straight out the building, and I collected my kids, my own kids. And he said, do not go to the house. And I said, okay. And he said, meet me at the Harley-Davidson place. And I met him at the Harley-Davidson parking lot.
Okay. And did he tell you what had happened or what he feared had happened?
He said they didn't. He said the bodies were unidentifiable, and I said, well, if you will,
Without going into what he said, let me ask you this. Did you give him information about your parents' cars, the kind of cars they had?
Yes, I gave him everything. For the most part, I think I gave him everything he asked about. He was asking about, he didn't know who was there, whose body was there, which didn't make sense at the time. But
did you tell him who had been present with you on Thanksgiving?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you give him information about the defendant, about your brother?
What
being
kind?
Present on Thanksgiving?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at some point, were you able to give him descriptive information about your brother?
Yes.
Like what do you look like?
All of them, yes.
Okay. Now, I know that must have been a difficult time for you. Is your memory sequential? I mean, do you remember everything, or are things just sort of jumbled for you?
It's a jumble. It's like most people's memories are linear. Mine's like a ball, and then there's different.
Okay.
So it's not. There's just not going to be sequential.
Is it fair to say that you were shaken by this interaction with Detective McCord?
I was, because I couldn't understand. Like I said, if you all will just let me, you can cover their face, and there's 1980s all written all over them. Like their hair was 1980s, and their we're always in bathing suits.
Okay. So when did you next go back to the house on Golden View?
That's the part I don't know. It was after. It wasn't any time. I don't know. I can't. I don't know the day. It would have been after we were allowed back in there, but it would have been. I don't know. Can't tell you a date. That's what the jumbled part is. There's a couple of weeks there where it was just so.
So the last time you saw your parents was on Thanksgiving, and the last time you saw your brother, Joel Michael Jr., was on Thanksgiving.
Yes, ma'am.
Is he in the courtroom today?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you point to him for the jury? Were you involved in your father's estate in any way after their deaths were confirmed?
I was the executor of the executor of Dad's estate, not the executor
Yes.
of Lisa's.
And as part of your duties as the executor, were you made aware of financial transactions on your father's accounts that took place after November the 26th, 2016?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And as part of your duties as the executor, did the estate receive any sort of credits on the accounts as a result of charges that were made after November the 26th, 2016?
If it was before that date, it's not considered theft, so there's no disputing it. But since it was after the date of their death, I provided a death certificate, and there were such large amounts of large amounts for utility, a large amount for a school. The only thing that we didn't get back, and it was just because someone paid on the credit card the $10,000. It was a $10,000 amount to his apartment complex, but the apartment complex refused to even.
Okay. What school were you dealing with?
LSU.
LSU?
Yes,
Okay.
to my memory.
Okay, just a second. Did your parents typically keep their dog in the laundry room locked up?
That dog was so pampered that they would jokingly threaten him to send him to my house. He just straight up, like he had to have the water fed to him a certain way and certain ice chips, and they would never lock him in a room ever. But that's just not how Lisa did things.
Thank you. Pass the witness.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon. Just a couple of questions. So, in sum, you're saying Joel Michael, the person on trial today, was more outgoing and friendly that Thanksgiving than you'd seen him before?
It's not more. He was outgoing and friendly. He usually is never outgoing and friendly.
Okay.
He doesn't speak at all.
And your parents had to be out of the house by December 13th,
I am not sure on the certain date.
but sometime in that neighborhood they were moving.
Yes, sir.
So it may not have been unusual then the Friday afterwards for your dad to start collecting the guns in one place to move them.
I don't know what would be usual or unusual.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
You're right. No. Thanks, Tyler. You may step down. You may remain in the courtroom. Who's next?
There'd be Officer Ballard and
All in 30 minutes, right? Folks, our next one is going to be a little bit more lengthy, so let's go ahead and take a recess. Once again, do not discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else. You may leave it open to the chair. Please go with the officers. I'll see you in about 10 minutes. All right, everyone, you may be seated. Does the state waive the call, jury? Defense waive the call? Welcome back, folks. Thank you for that break. We're ready to resume the state's proof. Gentlemen, if you please call your next witness. Detective, please come forward. Please come take a witness stand next to me, sir. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony about the evidence in the case now on trial will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please have a seat, sir. Once you're seated, you may remove your face covering.
Tell us your name, sir,
Stephen Ballard,
and by whom are you employed?
Knox County Sheriff's Office.
In what capacity?
I work in the Major Crimes Unit.
I want to talk about the year 2016. Were you still employed in that year, sir?
Yes, sir.
And what was your assignment on November the 28th, 2016?
I was a patrol canine officer,
In what region of Knox County were you charged with patrolling?
West Knoxville.
And does that include Golden View Lane?
Yes, sir.
And I want to ask you about that day, sir. Did you have cause to respond to 11434 Golden View Lane here in Knox County?
Yes, sir.
And what was the basis of you responding to that residence?
It was to do a welfare check on Lisa Guy.
Okay. And did you in fact go to that residence?
Yes, sir.
And if you would, tell the members of the jury what you did to accomplish your welfare check once you got to the residence.
The first initial response, I pulled up to the residence. I exited my vehicle. I went to the front door, knocked on the front door, rung the doorbell, didn't get a response. So I went to the, if you're facing the house, I went to the left side of the house. There was a small white 4-foot fence around the backyard. I noticed a dog house in the backyard. I whistled for the dog. Didn't get any response. Looked down, noticed that the gate was locked. At that point, I come back around to the front door of the home, and I knock and ring the doorbell again.
Okay. Did you have cause to notice whether or not the residence was for sale at that time?
There was a for sale sign in the front yard.
And were there vehicles physically in the driveway of the residence?
Yes, sir.
And in the course of your welfare check, did you run those vehicle tags, sir?
I could have possibly run those on my computer. Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you recall whether or not you did that day?
I don't recall.
Okay. So when you go to the door, sir, are you looking in the door or are you just knocking and ringing the doorbell?
No, sir. I'm just knocking and ringing the doorbell. It had been an officer safety issue to be peering in.
When you say an officer safety issue, what are you talking about, sir?
Typically, if I go out to a residence, I don't put my face up to the window to be able to see inside. It's an officer safety issue.
And how long on the initial response did you spend at 11434 Golden View Lane?
I'll say approximately 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to approach and show you what's been pre-marked as States Exhibit 10 for identification. Can you identify that, sir?
Yes, sir. That's 11434 Golden View.
Does that accurately reflect the residence that you responded to on November 28, 2016?
Yes, sir.
You want to read this in evidence?
Any objection? Should be exhibit 10.
So after your initial response, do you have cause to return to that residence?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me back up a little. Where did you go after your first response, after you left the residence?
I went about my daily duties, and I believe that I had actually pulled into a parking lot off a level road before I initially went back out for the second time.
Okay, and do you recall the lapse of time between the first visit and the second?
I'll say approximately an hour to 2 hours.
Okay, and what was the cause to go back a second time?
I had spoke with Detective McCord over the phone. We were discussing a robbery that had taken place on Level Road. I believe it was, the business was the Subway. We briefly spoke about that. Detective McCord asked me what I had found when I went out to the Guy residence. I explained to him that the inside foyer light was on. There were vehicles in the driveway, but I got no response at the door. At that point, Detective McCord told me that he had a little more information and asked if I would go back out to the residence with him.
Okay, and did you in fact go back with Detective McCord?
Yes, sir.
And were any other patrol officers accompanying the two of you?
Yes, sir.
And who were they, sir?
That would have been Jarrett Graves, and I believe it was Sergeant Benjamin Gresham at the time.
Okay, and upon the second arrival, what, if anything, you guys do differently than you did in the first welfare check?
So the second time when we arrived there, the neighbor, if you're facing the Guy residence, the neighbor to the left, her garage door was open. We actually went over, spoke with her briefly just to see if she could tell us when the last time was that she had seen them. Then we go across the street and speak with the neighbors across the street from the Guy residence.
Is this something that you would do on any sort of welfare check and investigating further?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and after you get back to the physical residence, do you knock on the door and ring the doorbell again?
Excuse me, Detective Allen, I don't mean to interrupt. So I know we've tried 100 times cases in here, but there's a juror right behind you, and you're kind of standing in front of her, and I don't want her to miss what things. And I'm sorry, I know it's just a habit, but it's a little bit different.
I'll try to stay confined to the podium if I could.
Thank you.
What was the question again, sir?
When you returned to the residence after you canvassed the neighborhood, if you will, what did you go to the back of the residence at any point?
I believe at that point, Sergeant Gresham was on the front porch, and he had pointed out on inside the residence some groceries. You could see if you put your face up to the actual window, you could see groceries sitting inside in the foyer. So myself, Detective McCord, we go around the left side of the house. If you're facing the front of the house, we climb the fence, get into the backyard. We go up onto the porch area. As soon as you get up in front of the door, we noticed the doorknob. One of the doorknobs was missing, and Detective McCord had knelt down to look through that doorknob.
Okay. When you say a doorknob's missing, could you physically see into the residence?
Through the knob, through the doorknob hole, yes.
So where the knob should be?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And based on that, did you have cause to investigate further?
Yes, sir.
And where do you go after the back of the residence? Where do you go next, sir?
So when we start walking back around, there's a back door to the garage that has a doggy door. I had attempted to see if that door was unlocked, and it was not. So then we go back around to the fence where we had crossed, and we climb back over the fence at that point.
Okay. And once you're back in the driveway after being in the backyard, what do you do, sir?
At some point, the garage door opens, and we enter the residence.
Okay. And when you say the garage door opens, is that as a result of law enforcement opening that garage door?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. It wasn't you physically who did it?
No, sir.
And when you enter the residence, if you would describe to the members of the jury what you were seeing and what was going on upon your initial entry.
So the garage door comes up. Detective McCord is in front of me. I'm behind Detective McCord. The other two officers are behind me. As we enter the garage, you can feel an intense heat coming out of the garage area. We go up to the interior garage door, and if you're facing in the garage, the interior garage door would have been to our right. Detective McCord announces Knox County Sheriff's Office, and at that point, he pushes the interior door open. When the interior door comes open, we step into the residence. There's some chemicals setting in the floor as soon as you step in, and then we begin to clear the residence.
Okay, and when you're clearing a residence, describe to the members of the jury what you're trying to achieve, sir.
We're trying to achieve to see if Mr. and Mrs. Guy are okay due to the fact they didn't come to the door. You've got groceries sitting in the floor, and the back doorknob's obviously missing at that point. We continue to go through the residence. As we go through the garage door, you see the chemicals setting in the floor. There's like a short, long hallway to the right, the best I recall. And if you're looking down that hallway, you see a dining room table toward the front of the residence. I can see something at that point lying on the dining room table. We continue through, come down the foyer where the groceries are lying in the floor. I look to my right, I see long guns lying out on the dining room table. At that point, we turn to start up the stairway.
Let me ask you, sir, at this point, do you have your service weapon drawn?
Yes, sir.
And do the other officers with you have their service weapons drawn?
I know Detective McCord did. The other two officers were behind me at that point.
And in terms of what you're perceiving with your senses, can you smell chemicals?
I actually feel a tingling on my forehead from the time that I entered the home. As we continue on and start up the steps, the heat is more intense. It seems to be getting hotter.
Okay. And if you would describe what, if anything, you observed in the course of going up the steps.
There again, the groceries were in the floor. I noticed the weapons lying out on the dining room table. We start up the steps. We get to a landing where there's a small, like, child gate. Detective McCord sees some blood that he believes to be on the wall at that point. He asks if anyone had gloves on them, and I did have a pair of gloves in my BDU pockets. I pulled those gloves out to put them on so that we could open that gate and go on up to the landing upstairs.
Okay, and to the best of your recollection, if you could describe the layout of the upstairs once you make it to the second floor.
So when you hit the landing, there's a room immediately to your right that turns back kind of behind you. Then there was a room on an angle to my right and another room on an angle to my left with a long hallway.
Okay, and in terms of what you believe to be blood, do you see anything once you get to the top of the stairs?
Yes, sir. When I get to the top of the steps, I believed it to be a human hand or a hand lying at the very end of the hallway.
Okay. And did you go a different way or have cause to go a different way than Detective McCord did initially when you're clearing the residence?
Yes, sir. Detective McCord broke off immediately to the right and kind of behind where I was, and I continued down the hallway.
Okay. And where you think you see hands, do you eventually make it to that room, sir?
Yes, sir.
And do you clear that room?
Yes, sir. Partially. Yes, sir.
And if you would, describe what you see in that room.
I see a human hand. It was lying in an upright position with another human hand that was closed fist behind it.
Okay. And after you make those observations, what do you collectively do as the officers who are clearing the residence?
Detective McCord had seen something in one of the other rooms and requested that we back out at that point. And at that point, we worked our way back out of the residence, and I went, if you were facing their residence, I went to the outside far back right of the residence and held a perimeter till we could get additional officers on scene.
And when you say you held a perimeter, is there any reason why you were continuing to hold a perimeter if you cleared the interior of the residence?
The complete interior of the residence, I don't believe, had been cleared at that point.
Okay, and at any point during the time within the residence at 11434 Golden View, were you alerted as to the presence of a dog anywhere?
Yes, you could hear a dog in one of the rooms faintly barking.
Okay, and where the dog was, is that one of the rooms that you cleared?
No, sir.
Okay. And when you're holding your perimeter back outside, how long do you do that?
How long what, sir?
How long are you holding the perimeter outside?
It seemed like forever. Maybe 15 minutes,
Okay.
10, 15 minutes.
And did you have reason to re-enter the residence that day, sir?
I did not.
Okay. And I want to ask you, sir, are you equipped with a body camera
Yes, sir.
on this date, November 28, 2016?
Yes, sir.
And have you had a chance to review those videos prior to testifying today?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, if we could, we would ask to publish 3 segments of body camera footage from November 28, 2016.
There you go.
Exhibit 11. You can call Mr. Brandon.
Captain John, I'm going to show you what's been pre-marked with State's Exhibit 11 for identification. Can you identify that disc, sir?
Yes, sir. It's marked with my name on it and being my body camera.
And does it have the date, the same as the day that you responded to 11-434 of You Use Evidence?
Yes, sir. It does.
We knew that in evidence, sir.
It's exhibit 10, or exhibit 11. You may call.
Captain John, I'm going to show you first the initial response to the residents.
The LEDs, please.
I may stop you here just to ask questions, but is there a reason why the portion of the front end of the body camera footage is typically muted?
Is there a difference in what, sir?
Is there a reason why the front end of the body camera footage is muted?
My understanding is when you very first turn the camera on, there's a delay in that.
Tell us what you're doing, sir.
This is me arriving at 11434 Golden View. And at this point, I'm going to approach the front door. K96, 297.
What are you doing at this point, sir?
I rung the doorbell at this point.
Echo 10. Step at that. 1098, code D for the complainant. Unit going with K915, I'll take it. Step 5, just 9 copy. Echo 20, 10 more, thank you.
You spoke about vehicles being present in the driveway. Are those the same vehicles that are present?
Yes, sir. This is where I'm going to the side of the residence to try to check the back.
Echo 12. Gonna have a white Dodge driveway, is there a shoulder ground? Negative. Echo 12, there may be a Katie Harold. I'll call the alarm company and verify.
What are you doing, sir?
I rung the doorbell again and just waiting to see if I get a response.
rear door with vestibule recorded. Just for clarification, is this your second visit to the residence?
If that's the video with Detective McCord, we will climb that fence.
So when you say that the doorknob is missing or absent from the rear door, is that depicted in the screen, sir?
Yes, sir. Detective McCord is actually looking through where the doorknob is missing at this point.
Here's the deal. They said that they purchased a house in Johnson City, so hopefully he'll have information on it.
They're saying Robertsville, the neighbors.
And the realtor's saying Johnson City.
Well, it's relatively close, yeah.
You got what? That doggy door? Yeah, there's supposed to be a hound dog. See, the hound dog's not out. The hound dog's not barking. All their cars are here. Okay.
Get I mean, one of them bricks back over when you get over.
Oh, well, yeah.
You all right?
Well,
No, one's good. You hung. I'm going back off for a minute.
At this point, is this when you make entry into the residence?
Yes, after this takes place, we do make entry into the residence. It appears that Officer Graves had went into one of the guy's vehicle. I couldn't tell what he was doing at that point, but the garage door does open.
Hello, Sheriff's Office! There's a dog walking up.
I hear a dog howling.
Knox County Sheriff's Office!
Damn hammer.
Police! Police Department, Sheriff's Office! Knox County Sheriff's Office!
Yes, sir.
I got the gun down here. Yeah, I got seven. Clear. Knox County Sheriff's Office!
Back everybody out. That's blood, right? Everybody got
Looks like it.
Is that blood or boo-boo?
It looks like blood.
Anybody got gloves on?
Yeah, I'm not close.
Knox County Sheriff's Office! We're here to check your welfare! And then just drop that. Knox County Sheriff's Office!
I've got one, probably one down here too, Jim. I'm going right, Benji.
And that's where I noticed the hands at the end of the hallway.
This room's clear. Hold up.
Oh my God.
You good, Jeremy?
Back out.
We got clear. Go. I'm going across. Got you.
Clear to get out.
Clear. This door says where dog is. Knives. Blood. Hands. Is that people's hands? Yeah, I think so. That's what I see. That's what it looks like.
What's your fucking hand? Get out now.
I ain't cleared. We not cleared this. There's blood all over it, though. You want to?
Can't back out. Everybody back out.
We need to start.
No.
A lot of. What do you got here?
Everything else already. You don't want to go. Everything else already. I'll get on that. Don't call anybody yet. I don't need shit blown up yet. I'll get on that. Back out. After the garage, same way we came in, don't touch nothing.
Yes, sir.
I believe that's all we'd like to close from this portion.
The General Sanchez, then rest of that video is in, correct?
It is in there. Not much more speaking on
Thank you.
it. The events you testified to today, sir, did they occur here in Knox County?
Yes, sir, it did.
Pass the witness.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You said that when you first went out, you did not put your face up to the glass. It's an officer safety issue.
Yes, sir.
Is there a fear of what could be on the other side of the glass, or someone see you peering in and react?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there a policy as to that, or is that just training, or?
I don't think there's a policy. I believe that's just training.
Okay. But then I think you indicated one of the officers did do that. Is that right?
Yes, sir, after numerous other officers were on scene.
Okay. And after the door had been knocked on several times,
Yes,
the
sir.
doorbell rung.
Yes, sir.
Now, at the back, after you've jumped the fence and Officer McCord's gone up and looked into the hole, he does not tell you anything about what he sees or experiences.
I don't recall.
Okay, it's not on the tape where he says, "Oh, I feel a lot of heat,"
Yeah, I don't recall that he told me that.
and he doesn't say anything on the tape about smelling a chemical smell.
I don't recall him telling me that.
In fact, it looks like after he goes to a side window and looks in, does he say the word nothing?
I believe I heard someone say nothing.
And then when you, was it you who tried the doggy door?
Yes, sir, it was me.
It was locked,
Yes, sir, it was.
but there was no other useful information from the door?
Other than it being locked and no one crawled through it.
Okay. Now, the inside garage door, was that after the big car door opened, the inside door, that was closed, appeared to be closed?
It was pulled to, yes, sir.
Okay. And Detective McCord either pushed it open or opened the, do you know which?
Yeah, I just know he pushed the door open, sir.
Okay. And you only went in the house the one time?
Yes, sir.
And it turned out there was not a suspect or anyone alive in the house?
No, no, sir.
Now, you said you talked to neighbors and someone saw a light on at 6:30, a bathroom light?
Yes, sir.
1 second, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Just very briefly, Mr. Hoffman asked you that it turns out there was no suspects in the house. Let me ask you, back on November 28th, 2016, did you know whether or not anyone was in the rooms that you hadn't cleared?
No, sir, I had no idea.
Anything else, Mr. Halstead? Thank you, Detective. You may step down. Next witness.
Can we call Sandy Campbell?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in the case now on trial be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may have a seat, officer, and once you're seated, you may remove your mask. Please speak in the microphone.
May we approach her? What's your name, ma'am?
My name is Officer Sandy Campbell,
By whom you employed?
Knox County Sheriff's Office.
In what capacity?
I'm currently assigned to the Forensic Services Unit.
And how long have you been employed at the Sheriff's Department?
Almost 9 years.
And has, in the course of your 9 years, in the course of your employment, have you exclusively been in the forensic unit?
No, I've been in the forensic unit for almost 7.
Okay. And tell us what, if any, training you've received as it has to do with forensics, particularly processing crime scenes.
Probably the most comprehensive training that I've received is attendance at the National Forensics Academy, which is a 10-week course recognized kind of worldwide as the standard, the gold standard of forensic services technician training.
Okay. And what are some of the things that training that you undergo at the National Forensics Institute?
We do many different kinds of things, ballistics, insofar as like shooting reconstruction specifically, and blood pattern analysis. We do just crime scene management in general, different ways of processing for latent fingerprint, lots and lots of stuff.
Okay. And when we're dealing with crime scenes in particular, and crime scene management, as you put it, what are the types of things that you're doing on a crime scene in terms of physical evidence?
So specifically, my job consists of documenting, collecting, and preserving any sort of physical evidence that we find on a scene.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to speak up just a little bit, just because we have jurors in the way back
Okay.
here.
Get that microphone a little closer.
Okay.
Okay. And when you say processing and documenting, do you do that through the use of video?
Yes, video and just a digital camera as well, photographs.
And did you do a crime scene video in this case?
I did.
And Your Honor, if I could, I would late file Exhibit 12, I believe, and I'd ask to publish that.
Be fine. Folks, Exhibit 12 is currently in electronic form, so we're going to go ahead and show it to you. By the end of the day, we'll actually have it on a hard disk to have with your deliberation that you may follow.
And before I publish, kind of tell us why you became involved with this case when you responded.
My supervisor at the time was Captain Brad Park, and he called me on the phone and said, come over here to this address. We've got a huge scene. So.
And do you recall what day that was?
It was the 28th of November.
And what year?
2016.
Okay. And you did state you, in fact, did do a video of the crime scene?
I did.
And did you take pictures of the crime scene?
I did.
And did you collect physical evidence?
I did.
And talk to us a little bit about the practices and procedures that you use when you collect physical evidence.
There's a lot of glove changing, so there's not cross-contamination with DNA. And we preserve things in paper bags rather than plastic, because plastic over time can kind of degrade the evidence if there's biological material on it on the inside of the bag. So we're going to use paper bags so that air can help keep microbial growth at a minimum.
Okay. And once you get a piece of physical evidence, do you seal that piece of evidence?
We do. We seal it along edges with evidence tape that's then signed and dated.
And where's the physical evidence stored?
I'm sorry?
Where's the physical evidence stored?
We have it stored in the Forensic Services lab, which is downstairs in this building, and it's locked in the lab and then additionally locked in these cages that you see in the back of the room. We refer to them as cages.
And do you use evidence placards?
We do, yes.
And can you describe to the members of the jury the significance of those?
So initially when we do a walkthrough in a scene, we're trying to identify obvious items of evidence. So sometimes not everything gets marked on the initial walkthrough because we don't recognize its importance at the time. So when that happens, when we do that initial walkthrough, we do mark with a plastic evidence placard the items that we consider to be of possible evidentiary value at that point. So when you see pictures, you will see evidence placards kind of throughout, and that's what they're being used to mark the significance. So then we can tell later, like spatial relationships, if it turns to matter more.
Okay. Is that typically something you do after your initial walkthrough of a crime scene?
Yes, because the initial walkthrough is kind of what do we have, like what appears to be most important in the very beginning.
Okay, so the video, would that be absent evidence placards at that point?
It would be, yes. This video is like the first kind of like official walkthrough from the Forensic Services Unit, so we have some sort of idea of what matters.
Yeah, at this point, we can publish that video.
As you can see from the crime scene tape, it's very windy, and that's going to matter in just a minute in the video. Just that it's very windy that day, so in the video, in just a moment, you're going to see why that matters, because this is something that we would not normally do on a scene that's about to happen. That would probably be, yeah. So where I can kind of explain what we're coming to as we come to it. So again, it's really windy. And this is just like approaching the garage. And this evidence marker is on its side to mark this piece of evidence. And it's so windy it blows it over. And so I'm using my gloved hand to grab it and put it within, like inside the garage to keep it from blowing away again. So this is approaching through the garage. Into a sort of eat-in kitchen area. So table in the eat-in kitchen. Random items in the kitchen floor. And then this is the kitchen proper. So it's important to note here that the stovetop is on in this large stock pot.
At this point, do you have any knowledge of anything being inside the stock pot?
No. So this is continuing kind of to the other side of the kitchen counter. And then on into the formal dining room area of the residence. So I'm stepping into the foyer of the residence. This is the front door, and it faces the street. And here I'm noting that the heating unit for the house, for the downstairs of the house, is set to 90 degrees, and it was very, very warm in there. And that's the front door and some miscellaneous groceries that are sitting in the floor.
Let me ask you whether or not there was perishables in those groceries.
There were. So this is just a half bath that's in the downstairs. So this is the living room downstairs in the residence. And you can see on this side it's open to the eat-in kitchen. This is the back door, and you'll note it's missing a doorknob. I don't believe this one was on. So off the living room here is this kind of little office area. So that's what that next doorway is. So this is back through the foyer. So there's some reddish brown staining right here, and we refer to things that we believe to be blood as reddish brown staining in forensics before they're tested and confirmed by a lab to be blood. So if you hear us refer to RBS or reddish brown staining, that's what that is. So here's more RBS down the side of the wall, and here at this gate. and on the banister as well. So this is just the landing at the top of the stairs, just kind of a small, almost foyer type area. There's more of that reddish-brown staining on the wall. And this is the master bedroom of the residence. And I know we had to turn the volume of the video down so that you could hear me speak while I describe it, but the sound in the video changes at this point. There's a loud noise in here because there's a heater on and blowing within the room. Yes. You can see the bag moving right there in the breeze being put off from the heater. It was turned on I think at the highest setting it could go. This is one of my coworkers who's also on scene with me. So this is the heater that was on. Yes, it is set to the number 3 setting, which is presumably the highest. fan setting on it, like a fan. And this is going into the master bathroom. So what you're seeing here is plastic sheeting that's on the ground in 2 large Rubbermaid type tubs. And this is a shower with a hose attached to the top attachment. The shower head has been removed and a hose has been put there instead, like a garden hose type of thing.
In your own words, I know it may be difficult, but if you could describe to them what you observed in the 2 tubs.
It was liquid with pieces of human body in it, in each of them. Both tubs had body parts in them, and they were kind of bulging on the sides. There is a heater in the bathroom. At this time, it's not on. But the master bedroom area of the house was definitely the warmest part of the house. And the upstairs was even warmer than the downstairs of the house. So, to the best of my recollection, the only heater that's on besides the central heat and air units is the one here in the master bedroom. See, this is the heater I was talking about that's in the master bedroom, but it's turned off right now. It's unplugged. So this is a set of like dishwashing gloves that are turned inside out on the counter there. This is the rest of the hose. This is back through the master bedroom. This is just the closet in the one of the closets in the master bedroom. Now we're walking back into the upstairs foyer. And now we're going into the guest bedroom. There's more reddish-brown staining in the floor. A suitcase here. These are tops to blue Rubbermaid containers that were similar, if not the same ones, for the ones in the master bath. So these are the lids. And there's a bunch of textbooks here and some medication This is a dresser. There's like a box of bullets there, box of gloves that's been opened, a container of hydrogen peroxide. It's food grade hydrogen peroxide with some reddish brown staining on it. And here on the other side of the bed is a backpack. And then moving towards the bed, there's some reddish brown staining on the bed and a laptop computer. This is back out into the foyer. And this is the upstairs temperature control. And it's at 95 degrees at this point. So this is kind of across the hallway from the guest room is a room that I think we refer to in our notes as a storage room. Some more reddish brown staining on the door frame of that room. So we're coming back out into the hallway at this point. And there's a bathroom on the right, a laundry room on the left, and straight ahead is kind of a bonus exercise room kind of thing. It's over the garage of the residence. So this is the hall bathroom. It's a pile of clothes and towel on the floor. Right here in the corner, what we're trying to show is that there's a pile of, looks like used medical tape and bandage type stuff. So there's a lot of stuff on top of the vanity and a lot of reddish brown staining. So this is across the hallway into the laundry room. And this is back to the room above the garage. Looks like it's set up as an exercise room / possible guest room. A pile of clothes with staining and a couple of knives. This is a large amount of reddish brown staining, and right back here at where this overturned Bowflex is. Wait till we get back to it. Right here was a set of what appeared to be male human hands that were severed from any other part of. They were just the hands. So more reddish brown staining on the door of this closet in this room. So these blinds are torn or broken. And this large amount of staining here in the corner. Yes, I took some of the photos on the scene.
Why do you take pictures as well as take a crime scene video?
So initially, we just really want you all as the jury to be able to see like the relationship and space of what it's like when you're walking into there. So that's why we start with a video, and then usually when one person is shooting the video, the next people are coming in and doing the same thing, but just with photographs with no evidence markers in place. And then we set evidence markers in place and then come back through with another time and take more photos.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, just for the record, I have not marked these numerically yet. There's 320 collectively. So whatever number wrong, I'll come back and mark them. Let me hand you
How many did you say there were? 320?
320, Your Honor. That number range, Your Honor.
Oh, it's 12 through 331.
Okay. I'm going to hand you what's going to be marked exhibits.
What? 13. Oh, I missed it. Yeah. 332.
So exhibits 13 through 332. If you could kind of thumb through those and not individually, but tell us kind of what we're looking.
All right, these are the crime scene photos I took after placards were in place. And as you recall at the beginning when I was explaining how we use placards, is that we put them in place with what we believe to be items that we believe to be of evidentiary value. Sometimes more items become apparent as we've gone through the scene. So keep that in mind, and I'll try to explain that as we get to it if I find things that did not get marked in the photos that I took.
At this point, we move exhibits 13 through 332.
Any objection?
I don't believe so, but I can't say. I know we've gone over the pictures. I don't know what each of those 320 are, but I know we've set guidelines, so I assume that they are within what we had agreed
Subject to
to.
our previous orders.
Yes. They are. They do comply with the order.
Very good.
This is the church image.
Are you going to publish all these?
I am here.
All right, we're going to take a break. All right, folks, before we get to these photographs, let's go ahead and take a recess. For 10 minutes, stretch your legs. Again, do not assess the case for yourself. You can leave it up to the chairs to go to